Get yourself psyched.
I'm psyched!
Psych up.
Let's go.
Good, because I already started recording. Hey guys, I am Justin.
And I'm Jordan.
And welcome to another video game podcast.
Where different gamers talk about different games.
That's right. I am a fantasy RPG player, and Jordan is a first-person shooter competitive player.
Love them, dude. Today's episode, man, I'm gonna tell you, I'm a little nervous. I'm a little excited, but it's about Skyrim. I know this is a huge game. Yeah, I know this is a huge game for a lot of people, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited to be here and to do this. Before we get started, I do just want to shout out that Justin's been doing a ton of work on the back end. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. We're on the podcast app. I mean, anywhere that you can listen to a podcast.
Apple Podcasts. We're on all three of those places now. So,
yeah.
However you like to listen, you can now listen.
Yes. Wherever and whenever, we are here for you guys, for the listeners. That's why we do this. And because we fucking love video games.
Yeah, it's not because of our own selfish need to talk about our opinions on video games as very opinionated people. It is for you.
And then, eventually we're in it for money, but not right now.
Yeah, eventually we'll become sellouts. And right, that's the natural progression of things. Jesus.
All right, I think we just go. We just start, let's do it.
Yeah, so the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, one of the if you look at the timeline of RPGs and you look at which ones are going to be the most influential, Skyrim is one of them for sure.
It's up there.
It's influenced so many other things, and you see a lot of what started in Skyrim and a little bit before Skyrim, the previous Elder Scrolls. You see that in a lot of the new RPGs coming out today.
I would definitely agree with that. Justin, what made you initially want to play Skyrim? What pulled you into it?
I played the previous game, Oblivion, when I was a kid, and I remember my dad showing it to me when I was a kid and being like, "Dude, this game Oblivion." He didn't call me dude, but he was like, "This game Oblivion has the best graphics I've ever seen. Look how realistic this looks." And I was like, "Whoa." And if you look back today, it looks like dog shit. And it looks really bad. And then eventually, I think, gosh, how old was I in 2011? I can't remember, but when Skyrim came out, it was a big deal. So I was already really into the fantasy genre and all that kind of stuff, mainly because I grew up having no friends. And so I instead of thanks, you would have absolutely been one of my bullies in school.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was a dick.
But I didn't really have any friends, so I never really had anyone being like, "Oh, let's hop online and play COD." I was more just like, what can I do for escapism and having my own experience. And I've been playing games since I was as long as I can remember. And but it was in these single player games that I grew up with that I really found escapism, and I was playing them all day and all night. And I have multiple, not hundreds, but thousands of hours into Skyrim. And it's an intense relationship that we have.
I think we've all been there. I mean, yes, I tend to stick to first person shooters and things like that. But, I think we've all been just absorbed into a world, and we're just trying to escape the world that we live in. I think everybody can really relate to that. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And the Elder Scrolls series, what's funny is that you texted me when we were talking about this, and you said, let's talk about, you texted me your ideas, and you said, let's talk about the two previous games before it. And I was like, well, actually, there's 4 previous games.
I'm kind of confused about that. Go into a bit more detail, because I've only ever heard of like whatever the first one is, and then Oblivion, and then Skyrim. I
So
didn't know about any of the other ones.
this was back in the days. It was either right during or right before the first Doom game. And Bethesda was a company. They were still a video game company, but they were making sports games, specifically notoriety of like Wayne Gretzky's hockey.
Really?
Yeah, and the team visited another game studio, and I can't remember their name, that were fantasy RPG makers, and I think it was Todd Howard that said, "Well, we should try something like that," and the room literally laughed at them, and so in response, they made the Elder Scrolls Arena. And that was the very first one. It wasn't original by any means. It was solid. It was an average RPG for back then, which was, you point and click to move. It was still in first person, but there weren't a ton of first person fantasy games. First person was starting to pick up, but it was shooters.
Yeah.
Bethesda had made a first person shooter at that time, which was a Terminator game. That was
Really?
pretty successful. It did pretty well. And they made the Arena, which Arena was weird in that everything was procedurally generated. Meaning, if you go into a dungeon, it's random. If you go into a town, it's random. The
That's
NPCs
cool.
are random.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought that was like a very new thing. The first game that I remember playing that had that was No Man's Sky, just a couple years ago.
Well, it was really easy to do back then because the texture quality wasn't that good. So you didn't have to make a whole lot of detail in these games. And so it was okay to have a giant map that was procedurally generated, where games today are a lot more handcrafted because the amount of detail that is expected is too much to do for mostly procedurally generated worlds.
Okay. Okay.
So they did pretty well, and then the Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall came out, which is the biggest map of all the Elder Scrolls games. And when I say
Really?
biggest map, I don't mean like, oh, it's jam-packed with stuff to do. I mean literally the physically longest map, and there were long, very, very long stretches of nothing. And
Ew.
some of the dungeons were still procedurally generated. Some of the NPCs were still procedurally generated, but they had a
You
little
want to
bit
try that word
more
again? What'd you just say?
procedurally generated. And but they did have a little bit more solidity to it, where the towns and some of the major NPCs were crafted, and so it was a little bit more permanent.
Okay.
And that's when you got into stuff like you could make your own spells and you can enchant items, and they made a skill tree and leveling up system. And that was it still wasn't quite original, but it was a better move than Arena.
Okay.
And then they came into their bread and butter, which was the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind.
Wait, hang on, real quick. Why was it a better move? Like, what made it better than doing the procedural? Just because the procedural, yeah, that.
Well,
Why was it better?
well, imagine if you're trying to play a game and you want to replay it, but you have no idea what to expect. And the computers sometimes are not smart. They can make really poor level designs, and it would suck for me as an RPG player. I like getting familiar with towns, and I like getting familiar with people in games. That's a huge part of why I play, and it makes it feel more real if that place is the same.
Yeah.
And those people are the
If
people
it's a
rather.
yeah, if it's a place that you can come back to, and you know that one NPC where you can get X item always is always here, that makes sense.
Right. Yep. It's that familiarity with it where you cannot become familiar with anything in Arena.
Okay. Okay.
And so Daggerfall was another thing that Daggerfall had was something that became a big part of most Elder Scrolls, of all the Elder Scrolls games. Is you could also buy your own house and have a dwelling, to put all your shit, and a place to go back to. And then they came into their bread and butter, which was Morrowind. Morrowind was the staple of like, this is what to expect. This is what Elder Scrolls identity. And it was everything was handcrafted. This is when all the NPCs were crafted, and it's a janky game to go back to. I did go back to it, and it's janky, but I mean, it's also really old. I know a guy that's in his 40s. He just turned 40, and he talks to me about how when he was in college, he used to just bum around all day, smoke weed, and play Morrowind. And he loved that
I can
world.
relate to that.
And this is when it became a bit more about story, where the previous ones were kind of just wandering around this world, and they didn't really have a huge main story, or at least not a really compelling one.
Yeah.
And this is when it was all about a story, and you were a chosen one. Like, you are the chosen one, which would become a Bethesda trope that got old.
Yeah. Never heard that one before.
Yeah, never. But it was a masterpiece for the time.
Yeah.
The world was huge. It was really confused. It was easy to get lost. It wasn't until the next two games that you actually had a marker on your map of where to go. Like, if they told you to go somewhere, you had to figure it out. You had to look at the map. You had to look at the map and actually find your way. And it was easy to get lost.
Yeah, I could see that being real fucking annoying.
Mm-hmm. And this is when you got to create your character on the whole body of your character. It wasn't just first person. You could go between first person and third person, and so you could see your character in action. It was a lot more involved with what the player wanted rather than random stuff. It was a lot more choices, and this is probably one of the coolest things that happened that has spread to other RPGs, and not all of them, but there were guilds and stuff. Like, there's a mages guild.
Okay.
And you could not progress in the mages guild unless you had a certain level of expertise with magic. And the way you gained levels, this was the coolest part about is instead of just, you got to level up, you choose the stats you want to level up in. Like, I want to level up my blade skill and all that kind of stuff. It was actually, you level up your skills by practicing the skill. The more you used a one-handed weapon, the better your one-handed weapon skill would become.
I kind of remember that from the brief time that I played Skyrim.
Yeah, and then like if you use magic more, then that type of magic you'll become more proficient in. And you can also read books. You can find books around the world that are like, you didn't have to actually read them or anything, but once you picked it up and your character, started to read, all of a sudden you'd see, like, let's say it was a book about like a manual about shields. You can all of a sudden raise your block skill by picking up that book. And there are also trainers. Like, if you find someone in the Mages Guild that is a master, destruction wizard, you can tell him, hey, I'll pay you and you train me. So basically just pay money and you can level up a few times. Okay,
yeah. That makes sense.
And that was when Elder Scrolls really found its identity. And then my personal favorite out of the bunch was Elder Scrolls Oblivion, which came out after that, which is the one that I first played when I was a kid. Okay. Going back, the graphics are terrible. The combat sucks. Which, first of all, I think all the Elder Scrolls games combat sucks because that's not what it's about.
I kind of remember that from playing Skyrim, and I watched a little like gameplay in preparation for this, and it seemed a little janky.
It's just boring and not complex at all. It's just pull out your sword, start mashing, and then occasionally block or use magic or whatever it may be.
Yeah, there was like there's no like combos or anything like that, which I kind of feel like a game, like if I'm going to carry around some sort of like bludgeoning weapon, like I want the ability to like duck and roll and to like swing my weapon in certain ways and like light hit, heavy hit.
It's kind of funny. So there are light hits and heavy hits. in all of them. But what's kind of
Okay.
funny you say that in Oblivion you could do that a little bit more than you could in Skyrim. Like if you're blocking
Hmm.
and you move in a direction and hit the jump button, you'll do a roll, or you'll dodge. And if
Hmm.
you there's even an acrobatic skill that you can level up just by like jumping around and stuff. And if you get that high enough, you can do like a backflip instead of just roll backwards.
Yo, that's kind of lit.
It's really cool. And another thing that they took out of Skyrim that drove me nuts. This is probably the number one in terms of game mechanic and actual function that drove me insane about Skyrim. Is in Oblivion, I could wield a two-handed weapon, and you still have a spell slot, and I can select a spell that I can use by pressing C. And in Skyrim, you actually have to equip a spell to your hand. So it is impossible to use a two-handed weapon and a spell at the same time.
Well,
Whereas
then why would you ever use a two-handed weapon?
well, you can become like a jet. There are people. There were so many classes. That's another thing. The class system was crazy, where like you can be perfect because you had your major skills and your minor skills. Your major skills you got to choose by either selecting a pre-made class or making your own, and you can make your proficiency in those. So those there were 7 major skills, and those 7 are the only ones that would actually level you up. Where if you're increasing these skills, you can level up. Where if you're increasing the other ones, you're not going to level up. And so you could be a battle mage that I'm going to wield. I'm going to have heavy armor, and I'm going to wield this giant blunt hammer with 2 hands, and I'm also going to use like restoration magic to heal myself. And that was useful because I remember playing Skyrim, and let's say I wanted to play, let's say I was even if I was playing a warrior, I still wanted to have some restoration magic to heal myself.
Hmm.
And so if I was playing a two-handed warrior, I would have to go in the menu, unequip the weapon, go to the magic menu, equip spells, use the spell, go back in the menu, switch back to my weapon, which was annoying.
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
Does it at least pause when you go into the menu?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And that was annoying, but I liked the combat system, even though it was very floaty and you didn't really feel like your hits had much weight in Oblivion. I liked it better, and I also think the quests were better. But this isn't a whole podcast about Oblivion. I'm going on to the big one on November 11th, 2011. So 11/11/11, Skyrim came out, and to preface this, Morrowind sold, I think it was, oh gosh, I should have fact checked this beforehand, or else people are going to tear me apart. I think it was somewhere in the realm of 400,000 copies or more, or maybe even 4 million. It was 4 something, but by the time Oblivion came out, Oblivion sold a little bit more than that by the time that Skyrim came out. Skyrim sold 7 million copies in the first week.
In the first week,
In the first week.
it sold enough copies to give one to every person in like the population of a small country.
Right.
Damn.
In the first week. And I think a large part of that is because of the time it came out. Because I just think of the generation of gamers. And when I was a kid, my dad was playing games, but he remembers playing Tetris,
Ew.
and Pac-Man. Don't diss those. Those are good games.
No, 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 no. Those were dog shit games. Let's compare
Still
to
played Tetris on my phone, jackass.
why?
Because it's fun. It's fun. Tetris
Okay,
is
fine.
fun.
Yeah, okay.
And my wife and I play competitive Tetris sometimes. Leave me alone. But we no, he and I think that a lot of gamers were us or a little bit older is when gaming really started becoming mainstream. Gaming back then when Oblivion and Morrowind came out and stuff, it was like gaming's gonna rot your brain. And I think it was I think Skyrim came out at the perfect time when the age of people that had played the prior games, they were finally, not having their parents buy them games or mooching off their parents' games.
Yeah.
They were getting their own games. And I think that that's a big reason as to why it did so well. I think it came out at the perfect time.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Um. Okay. So, I mean, on the cover of Skyrim, we see this really cool symbol of a dragon.
Yes.
Now, I want to know, like, I want my own fucking dragon. How do I have a pet dragon? I want to name him Bob, and
You're
I
gonna
want him
be
to go get my fucking groceries.
you're gonna be slightly disappointed. I like to imagine you riding to Super Saver on a dragon. Or just like flying through a drive-through. But you're gonna be pretty disappointed with the dragon riding. So the game itself, first of all, we haven't really talked about the main story yet. There are spoilers in this. I don't know why you haven't played Skyrim yet. If you're
It's
mad
on
about
them
spoilers,
at this point.
yeah, at this point, that's on you. But there are
Yeah.
spoilers. But Skyrim main plot point was dragons. Again, you're the chosen one. You are what is called the Dragonborn. So basically, in this time, at the beginning of the game, dragons are extinct. And there have not been dragons in years and years and years. 200 years was the last sighting of a dragon. And it went back even longer than that in terms of like actually seeing them all around. And dragons actually used to rule the world. That's another thing about the whole Elder Scrolls series. There is enough lore in them to rival Lord of the Rings. In terms of there's a huge history of how the world was made and a whole bunch of stuff that you never see in game. You would never know unless you read a lot of the books in the games, which there are hundreds and hundreds of books in each game. And there's so much lore in all of them. Yeah, like written like books that were made by people that wrote stories that I would say like 5% of the players would read.
Yeah, you're not gonna catch me reading any of that shit.
There are YouTubers that'll do it for you. There's actually YouTubers that will read every book in a video. But anyways, the dragons have been extinct, and you're in a situation where you're a prisoner, and you're about to get your head chopped off, and all of a sudden a giant gray dragon lands on top of a building and starts wreaking havoc on this town. And so you escape that town. You go and warn a jarl, which is Nordic, and it's kind of like a count, or like the leader of a town, like a governor. You inform the jarl, and he sends you on another quest to help him investigate the sighting of dragons. You go and get this tablet that comes into more significance later, and then you're told, oh, there's a dragon found outside of the town. And so you go out, and this is the first time you actually fight this dragon. And this was a huge deal at the time. Graphically, it was crazy to see something that big that you're fighting, this giant dragon. Because graphics at the time for each of these games, they were on the cutting edge. This was
I remember,
as good as it gets.
yeah, I remember it being fucking incredible. Like the very brief times that I played Skyrim, I do remember being blown away by the graphics, and I think that's what really drew me in, like to the game Skyrim. Even though I didn't play it a ton, I think that's what drew me in, was just like seeing like, holy shit! Like I didn't even realize that something like this could even be created.
Yeah, I mean it's a beautiful game. But you fight this dragon, and all of a sudden you see that there's a glow coming out of it, and its soul goes into you. And that's when you find out you're something called Dragonborn. So basically, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. So Dragonborns are the people with the blood of a dragon, and they have been thought to have been gone for 200 years, literally. And you are the last Dragonborn. That's your title throughout this whole thing. And so you're the chosen one, and you have to save the world from this dragon called the World Eater, which it's a whole big thing that I can't go over the whole story, obviously, but it's your classic. You're the chosen one. You're the only one that can do this. type of thing.
So when you say Dragonborn and blood of a dragon, in my head, I'm picturing like some dude trying to squeeze his way out of a dragon pussy and being like, "Hi, mom," and
Oh
the
my
dragon's just
God.
like, what are we talking about here?
That's exactly right. That's how the game starts.
Nice, nice.
No, so basically the only function that it has in the game, there's two main functions. One is that a Dragonborn is the only thing that can officially kill a dragon to the point where it can't be resurrected. Because that's what's been happening is dragons have been being resurrected by something. And Dragonborns are the only thing that can actually kill it because instead of their soul going somewhere else, they absorb their soul. And they can't be brought back.
So I'm
And
kind of confused because, like, so are dragons in this game? Are they our friends? Are they our enemies?
enemies.
Like, but they were all. That feels so sad. They were all gone, and now they're coming back, and we're trying to kill them all off again.
Well, because they're trying to kill us. It's not like they're just here
That's
to
a good
hang.
fucking point. Yeah, they're just not birds.
The lore is that before men ruled and men and elves and stuff, it was the dragons. Dragons ruled and enslaved all of mortals.
Oh,
Yeah, so
shit.
they were slavers.
so they were assholes.
Yeah,
Okay.
and so whenever a dragon breathes fire or breathes ice in this game, they're actually speaking their own language. Whenever they speak this language, which is called a shout, that language becomes the element that they're speaking of.
I just remember screaming "Foos!"
Yeah,
that?
which means force, which is why there's a force. It's basically just a giant push. That means force,
Okay.
and so the you have the ability because there are men and elves that can learn the language of the dragons and actually be able to, because other people can just say the words and nothing's going to happen. It takes a lot of training to be able to actually turn it into something, and those people dedicate their entire lives to it. And literally, they for their entire lives they live to be like 100 and some, and that's all they do is train. But a dragonborn can look at the language and just do it, which is where you come in terms of gameplay. Now that's
Like I'm a childhood prodigy, is what you're saying.
pretty much, yeah. You have the dragon blood, and so I can just read the word they read, like, I can't remember. I think it's soul, SOL, which means sun, and that's part of the fire breath one. And I can just yell that at people once reading it. But you have to get a dragon soul. This is more of a game mechanic rather than actual lore. But if I read a word, like a health drain shout or something, if I read that, I cannot actually use it until I spend a dragon soul on it in the menu. So basically, the more dragons you kill, the more shouts you can learn.
So I vaguely remember. Does shouting attract dragons?
No, there are two shouts. One of them's in the DLC that is literally called Call Dragon. And this one summons a dragon that flies overhead and assists you.
Oh,
And so basically calling it like an aerial strike, medieval style. And the way you ride dragons is in the DLC called Dragonborn. You learn a new shout called Bend Will that lets you mind control people. You can every shout comes in 3 chunks, and it gets more powerful if you learn each word. So there's technically 3 words per shout. And so the first word you learn doesn't really let you do a whole lot. It lets you do like minor creatures. The second word lets you control humans and creatures. And then the third one, you can do that to dragons. And if you do that to a dragon in this game, it'll land after defeating all your enemies. So basically, if a random enemy dragon shows up, I can use that shout, it'll land, and I can hop on. Now, this is where the disappointing part comes in. Because of technical limitations, you cannot ride it around the entire world like a horse. It literally just goes in a circle, and you can just mash buttons so it'll attack your enemies for you. So it was kind of stupid, and Yeah, it was a big bummer.
That's disappointing.
I know. I wish I could have just rode that thing like a horse and go from place to place, but you can't. You can only stay in one little area, and eventually that shout wears off too, so he'll attack you again.
Uh, aw, that's sad.
So the biggest thing about Skyrim and Oblivion, because their main stories are fine, the combat's not so great. The thing that entraps you is the world itself. The world is one where you can go off the beaten path in any direction and you will find something new and interesting to do. And it's very, very easy. Like I've played thousands of hours into Skyrim. I have never done every quest. There are probably many things I still don't know about, and there's a lot of little nooks and crannies and you know, unique items and even unmarked quests that don't even go in your quest book, but like in little stories you can see. And so that's what it's about. It's about the adventuring. It was the ultimate adventuring game that you could go off the beaten path
Okay.
and still be just as enthralled.
Okay. So yeah, speaking of like side stories and shit like that, I briefly remember like this really popular, I think it's like a guild or a faction or some bullshit like that, where it was like in the basement and everybody was hooded, and I just remember getting like mesmerized and drawn into that and just wanting to do that. I think it was like the Brotherhood of something. Do you know what I'm talking
Oh,
about?
so there's two that that you may be referencing. I think you're talking about the Dark Brotherhood, which is assassins.
I think that was it. I think that was it.
So they kind of like baby gloved the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim, in my opinion. Because
Really?
oh yeah, in Oblivion, there's like choppy, like everyone there's a psychopath. Like they're not doing it because they had nowhere else to go. They were raised in it and all these kind of things. It was like literally like some of them were like that, but some of them were also just like, yeah, I kill my enemies, feed on their flesh, and love watching their loved ones be sad about it.
You
And it was
know,
like medicine.
that I was gonna say that like, you know, eating the flesh of my enemies, I mean, that really gets me going too. And then when I watch their family cry, dude, that's when I just
Yeah,
get rock
it was
fucking hard.
it was it was fucking metal. Like it was it's crazy in that one, and this quest makes so many twists and turns, and the quest in Skyrim is not bad at all, but no, the factions are a huge part of Bethesda games.
Hmm.
And they have usually just like one for each type of character. In Skyrim, if for warriors, they have a group called the Companions, which are basically mercenaries that are also they're all about, you know, valor and honor and glory and all this. And then there's also for mages, there's the College of Winterhold, which is literally what it sounds like. It's a college for mages. But there's a lot of hijinks that go around there. And what's cool about that faction is the general outlook of the regular populace, which in Skyrim, it's up. No, Skyrim is a place. It's in the north of what's called Tamriel, which is like the
Hmm.
main body of land, and you know it's like Canada for you and I. But it's run by these guys called the Nords. They're the prominent race there. They're hardy, hardworking. They're your Vikings. They were influenced by Nordic folklore and Vikings and all that kind of stuff. So imagine warriors and barbarians and all that kind of stuff. And so their general outlook towards magic usually is like, ugh, keep that away. Nothing good happens with magic. And so there's a huge amount of distrust to the college. Um, so there's the College of Winterhold for mages. There's the Thieves Guild, obviously for thieves and rogues.
Hmm.
And then there's the Dark Brotherhood, which is kind of its own thing, which is really cool. You can just role play as an assassin, and it's like a very dark person and an evil person. And they have like one of everything in there. There's a warrior type, there's all this kind of stuff. It's usually more beneficial if you go in as a rogue, just because there are bonuses you can get if you do things discreetly rather than just go in axe swinging.
Yeah.
And so those are like the main factions that are always there's always this one for every character type.
So you keep saying like warriors or rogues, or I heard you brought up like elves. So, I mean, like what? what are you really describing here? Because like I guess I do vaguely remember that like I could play as a human or I could play I swear to God, I feel like I remember there was a character that looked like Bosk from fucking Star Wars, like a lizard person.
Yes,
Yeah,
those
and
are
they were
called
like
Argonians.
elves.
They're
Like talk to me about that.
so there's every race has an origin and where they came from and what their heritage is like, and they all have innate abilities. Like Nords, like I said, are Vikings, and if you choose a Nord, you get an immediate boost to your warrior skills. You know, your heavy armor, your weapons, your shield,
Mm.
all that kind of stuff. There are a multitude of races. So there's some that are more humanoid, ones that are elvish. There are orcs, and there are very unique ones called Khajiit, which are cat people, and Argonian, which are lizard people. And they're all very unique in their own ways. And so there are like Argonians, which are very unique, which, like I said, are lizard people. They have an immunity to or resistance to poison, and they can breathe underwater.
Talk to me about the cats. I want to be a fucking cat.
The cats are interesting. So the cats have an innate power you can activate called Night Eye, which allows you to see in the dark. They're very agile, really good for a rogue, and they also have claws. So if you're using barehanded or you just your bare hands as weapons, which you can absolutely do, you actually use your claws and do more damage.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and so then you can choose. You can kind of become a jack of all trades, or you can go down one path, and that's what I really like about the Elder Scrolls games. You don't have to just choose like I'm going to be a mage, and I'm going to wield fire and heal people and cast illusions. It's like no, I want to be. You could be like I want to be a warrior that has a sword in one hand, but also has a fire bolts in the other, and I'm also really good at sneaking. You can do all of that.
So can you max out like a character? Can you get a character like to max all the stats? Is that possible or no?
In Oblivion, absolutely it's possible. In Skyrim, well, I guess it's possible in all of them. Yeah, it's absolutely possible in all of them. You can get every skill to 100. It's very tough to do, especially if you've. Because think of it this way. Let's say I made a warrior, right? And I have maxed out my armor and my blades and my shield and all that kind of stuff. I've maxed all that out. Well, now I'm also leveled up a shit ton. So now I'm level 80 as a warrior, and now I'm about to go against enemies that have leveled to me, but I want to try using a bow and being sneaky. Well, I'm not proficient in being a sneaky with a bow. And so these enemies are way too strong for me to try to take on stuff. That's like if that's like if you were a baseball star. This is actually never mind. I was trying to think of a really good sports analogy, but I couldn't find it. It didn't work out in my brain. God damn it.
Justin, we don't talk about fucking sports here, all right?
Yeah, we don't know anything about sports.
So can you not like is there not like can you not like farm animals or shit like that? Like does the whole game level up with you, or are there certain things that you could go do repetitively to like go farm up a skill? You know what I'm saying?
So regular creatures like chickens and cows and stuff, they don't level, but enemies do. And if you kill a chicken in a town, you're wanted, and then you get in trouble.
Oh.
You get a bounty on you, and if yeah, enemies will scale with you, and
Okay.
so anything that you're allowed to fight will always scale with you, and even NPCs. Like let's say I'm playing Skyrim and a bandit comes out and I'm level 3. That bandit's going to have an iron sword or something. But if I'm level 80, they're going to have this beast sword with maybe an enchantment on it.
Oh.
And so even the equipment will change and always level with you. What you find in chests will always level with you.
Okay. Okay. So I have another question. I realize it's not on the list here, so I'm just kind of throwing you another full curveball here. But like, Skyrim was 10 fucking years ago. Like, I just now realized that. I'm literally looking at the date on my computer, 2/26,
Yep.
2021.
It's nearing a
Why the
decade.
fuck is there not another one?
That's a amazing question that I don't have answers to, as I'm not a developer. So
Like, what the fuck are they doing?
this has been a long time since we've seen another Elder Scrolls, and I'm so scared it's going to fall into a hype train that's going to be a letdown, especially with the way that Bethesda's been running things lately. I can't be more than I can't be a little.
Are they
What's
even
that?
working on another one?
Yeah, they announced it
Oh, they did?
2 years ago.
Okay, well, at least there's that.
Yeah, there's the Elder Scrolls 6. That's all you saw was a landscape and then the word Elder Scrolls 6 pop up, and that's it. That being said, people have already dissected like the landscape that they showed, and we're like, all right, we already know where it is and where it takes place, and of course, diehard fans will dissect the hell out of it.
Yeah, I mean, we all do.
Yeah, and so I have no idea what to expect. If you would have asked me 3 years ago, or even probably a little more, are you looking forward to the next one? I'd be like, oh hell yeah, of course. I'm gonna like take off a week of work and I'm gonna play it as much as I possibly can, day and night. But now the way that Bethesda run things with how rough Fallout 4 came out and the whole huge debacles that they keep having about disappointing fans and over-promising and under-delivering, I'm skeptical and I'm scared because Elder Scrolls is one of my favorite RPGs of all times, and I'm scared of the future of it.
I played Fallout 4, and I have never played a more fucking boring game in my whole fucking life. I was straight bored playing that game.
I've played through it a few times, and we'll do a Fallout episode someday. To go more in depth, but yeah, no, they took a lot of the formula and they narrowed it down. They didn't make it as easy to. The big problem that I think Skyrim has made into a lot of other games, and Fallout 4 did it even worse, was called Radiant Quests. So Radiant Quest means no matter what, the game will create more quests for you. You can never be a quest line.
Ew.
And so that means, so for example, the Dark Brotherhood in Skyrim. Once you complete the entirety of the Dark Brotherhood main quest line, so the way the Dark Brotherhood works is that people perform what's called the Black Sacrament, which means they basically sacrifice a body and do a ritual to call upon the Dark Brotherhood so they could do an assassination for them. And once you're done with all the main plot points and everything's like, all right, everything's hunky dory and all the problems are solved in the Dark Brotherhood, then you can just do these Radiant quests where they literally to talk to someone. They say, okay, that there's this priest in this one town. He has a mission for you, and it's always like never an actual person. It's always just like a guy named Priest or something. And so it's something that the game just generates just for this quest, and you never can run out. There will never be an end to it, and it's called a Radiant Quest, where you are repeatedly told to do this one thing, and it never changes ever.
I will say, as a dedicated Call of Duty completionist, that would piss me the fuck off.
Yeah.
That would make me so angry.
Yeah. Imagine, yeah, for you, I'd like to think of it as if you did like, let's say you completed everything and they weren't going to come out with another COD for years. You like, let's say you're doing a skins mission or something. Like, you're trying to get all the skins for all the weapons.
As I always do.
Yeah, and then at the end it says, okay, here are some extra objectives for you. Like, this round you're going to do, 25 kills with an SMG. And that's your goal right now. You do that, 0 reward, and then it just populates another one and another one and another one for no reward.
Ew.
No progression towards anything.
Ugh.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That would frustrate me.
Yeah. But imagine if it was you could not do anything else other than that. So, like, if you're going through the Dark Brotherhood, there's nothing else for you in the Dark Brotherhood once you beat it. Now you're just at Radiant quests, and you have nothing else. You have no other options that you can do in the Dark Brotherhood. You're done.
I mean, I would just prefer that it would be done.
Right.
So then I know that I can move on to other parts of the game.
Right. I don't know why Bethesda thought, like, we needed that. Well, we don't.
Yeah.
And it was even worse in Fallout 4. You may have heard memes of a certain gentleman named Preston Garvey. This is more for listeners if you don't get this, Jordan, but Preston Garvey telling you that there's another settlement that needs our attention. And that's a meme everywhere because everyone hates it. And that's because it's a Radiant quest line. And it goes on for way too long.
Yeah, it just carries on and on. No, I could see that being really frustrating. How many times has Skyrim been re-released now?
Oh, they're milking it so hard. So there was Skyrim that came out on I'm gonna start with like Xbox 360, PS2 era. Or
PS3. It would have been a 3.
PS3?
Yeah, there's no way it would have been
right.
on a PS2.
You're right. I'm sorry. PS2, PS3. God damn it. PS3 and Xbox 360 era, and then they made the special edition for the Xbox One and the PS4, and then they also have a Switch version now, a PlayStation VR version now, as well as just a regular VR version, and they just kept making more, and I think there's quite a few out there. And I used to collect them. Like, I have the regular one, and I also have the special edition, and I also have the PlayStation VR one, and I have the Switch one. If you asked me 2 years ago what's your favorite game of all time, I would have said Skyrim. But then I became a big critic, and I actually critique things not just off of nostalgia and immediate enjoyment, not just face value enjoyment, because that's what Skyrim is. Skyrim is like looking at a beautiful lake, like gorgeous lake, sun shining off it, sun setting on it or something, and there's trees all around, and it's the clearest water you've ever seen, and you step in, and even in the center of that lake, it only goes up to your ankles. It's a puddle. And so at face value, it's one of the most exciting experiences ever, but through replaying, revisiting, and becoming a critic, it's not nearly as good as I remember. And that's why I like Oblivion more now, is because I realize, the quests are better in Oblivion. The combat system is better in Oblivion.
Yeah.
And again, this is all just my opinion. You can fight me in the comments if you want, but I'm not going to fight back because this is just my opinion.
So what comes to mind is I remember like a video of Dr. Disrespect, and he's talking about like a press release or something. Maybe it was like E3 or something where Bethesda was there and they were hyping everything up. And then they showed mobile games. Like, is there a mobile version of Skyrim?
Yeah, there is.
Skyrim on my fucking phone?
It sucks. Yeah, no, there is. Oh boy, I'm looking it up right now. It's the Elder Scrolls Blades. It has nothing to do with Skyrim. It is not the timeline of Skyrim. It's not Skyrim on your phone. It is a completely different set of quests that has graphics like it came from the PS2, and it is terrible. Really? It is so bad. It's the combat is awful, and they just tried to make more money, and oh man, I can't describe it to you. It's free. Go check it out.
Yeah,
go check it out, everyone. Dude, try it out. Put it in the comments. What did you think of Elder Scrolls Blades? We'll do a whole episode on the Elder Scrolls Blades.
Absolutely fucking not. I'd rather blow my own goddamn brains out. Oh my god.
You say that, but you wouldn't be heartbroken if we did an episode about COD Mobile.
Well, COD Mobile's a great fucking game. Have you played COD Mobile? It was better than Modern Warfare.
Ooh.
Ooh. It was definitely the 2020 Modern Warfare, not like the OG Modern Warfare.
But you're gonna pick some fights.
I think everybody would fucking agree with me. But let's not get off topic here. We're talking about Skyrim. Damn, dude. Okay.
So here's one thing I do want to talk about,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because
Go ahead.
we are reaching the 50-minute mark. I'm okay if we go a little over an hour. But one of the biggest things that Elder Scrolls has always had going for it is modding.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, the mod community is insane in Skyrim, and there are people that are so creative out there. There's a mod out there. It's one of the most popular mods out there called the Unofficial Skyrim Patch, and it fixes a bunch of the bugs and issues that people had. And like, it's kind of funny because Bethesda's starting to rely on that now, being like, modders will fix our shit.
That's so fucking lazy, dude. I feel so bad. Like, anyone who's listening to this episode, and I feel like I've just kind of shat on Skyrim this whole episode, and I don't mean to. I think I did more having fun playing Skyrim, but I feel like Bethesda is a piece of shit company that doesn't deserve Skyrim.
They weren't, when Skyrim came out, that was a huge part of it. I mean, they had already built such a trust and loyalty of having an amazing game, because of Morrowind and Oblivion. People knew like, oh, these guys are serious and they make really good RPGs. And then they became one of the biggest companies out there, and they did what happens every time when a game company becomes one of the biggest ones out there.
What's that?
That's fucking get money hungry and stop caring about the consumer.
Yeah, they just get fucking lazy.
They get lazy. They stop caring. It's not a passion project. It's not a project that's made with love.
Yeah.
And I've played, even Skyrim's made with love. It really is. And I've shit on Skyrim and says not nearly as good as I remember, but I still remember like walking out of the tutorial cave for the first time and seeing the trees and the water, and I was blown away, and I thought for years it was my favorite game. I really did. And it's just because I'm a critic and an asshole about it. So if it's your favorite game, don't think I'm shitting on your favorite game. Let it be your favorite game. It's a great game that has multiple things to offer, but for me, I think it may also be because I played it too much.
Yeah, maybe you might have overplayed it, bored. Like a bad radio DJ.
Yeah, exactly. But back to the modding thing that I was talking about. There's so much creativity in the modding community, and everything in the modding community is done with love. And Bethesda games have always been the code has always been the easiest to access and the easiest to manipulate, which is why modding runs rampant in Bethesda games. And they knew that, and so they did a few things. So, by the way, when I mean creative, I don't mean just like they're making, you can find ones that are like, oh, the texture is better, the graphics are better. They replaced some of the swords with different models. They added some armor. I'm talking about one of the most popular ones out there is you can turn every dragon into a Thomas the Train.
I was about to say that. I saw that and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, and here's what's really cool about that specific mod. The main bad dragon, the one that's going to eat the world, is Thomas the Train, and every other dragon in the entire game is a different character from the Thomas the Train. So it's not like everyone is Thomas. Everyone is like a character, and only the big baddie is Thomas the Train.
Do you see Thomas the Train like flying around in the sky at some point?
Yes. Instead of roaring, it honks it uses the train horn.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's amazing. And there's another really popular one where it turns the dragons into a weird warped version of Macho Man Randy Savage. And every time he breathes his element, he just yells, "Oh yeah!" It's one of the best mods ever. And there are people that make the game better. There are people that make it worse on purpose. There are people that just have a dream and they make it happen. So that's what Skyrim, it can really be a game that you can make it whatever you want. If you want to play a version of it where you're a farmer and you do nothing but farm, there's a mod for that. You can literally do whatever you want with it in mods. and Bethesda knew this, so they did a couple of things to make it work in their favor. And it was, some of them were really shitty, some of them were really good. The great thing that they did was on the PS4 and Xbox One versions of Skyrim, or for the special edition, they came out with, on the main menu, there is a mod section. So people that made mods can Bethesda can ask them, hey, can we use this in the official game? So these are mods that were approved.
In-game.
Yes, so like these were mods that were approved by Bethesda, and you could download for free and have your cool modding experience, even if you don't have a PC, which had never been done before. It's fantastic, and I think that's great for the modding community, and it's great for a lot of gamers that want to enjoy mods but can't have a gaming PC.
Yeah, I can't afford it. Yeah,
and the shitty thing that they did was they paid. They at one point they took away mod support in general, mainly like on Steam, and they created what's called the Creation Club. And they also, well, sorry, this was before Creation Club. They stopped the supporting of mods, and even on Steam, there's something called the Steam Workshop, and that's how you can download mods for a lot of your favorite games on Steam. And they took away access to that, and instead they put a bunch of ones up there that they approved and charged you for it. So they would pay a modder a very paltry sum, and they would rake in profits. And people were like, no. And there was a huge uproar of anger, because it's like, we've always had mods. I've always had my modding for free. Why are you charging me for something that it was free and was part of our community? And
that's
like it was
rude.
It was its own community. Like, this is a group of people that want to play with your game's code. They're playing with something that they own. I purchased the game, and now it's like if I bought a shirt from Target, and it was like a Target branded shirt or whatever, and then I decorated it with however I wanted, and like cut off the sleeves and make it its whole new own thing, and I gave it to someone. Well, instead, Target was like, no, give that to us, and then we're going to sell it. It's like, no, I bought this product, assholes. And I was creative with it. And so because of the backlash of that, they stopped that. They let you have your free mods back, but they made the Creation Club. The Creation Club is in Fallout 4 and Skyrim, and it's basically paid mods, but you also have the option of but they take like the most popular ones. So there was a game called Campfire, or there was a mod called Campfire, and Campfire you can still get on PC, and it's it's still on Steam and everything, but it's a mod where you get materials, and wherever you are, you can make a campfire and make your own little campsite while you're adventuring. It's a great mod.
Yeah,
and
nice.
It's a delightful mod. And Bethesda, instead, on the ones that are approved by them, they took some of the most popular ones, and because they still, at the consoles, you still have your mod section where you can download your mods. Well, now they have the Creation Club, where it's like, we're going to take the most popular ones and take these ones that are really polished, and we're going to make those you have to pay for, but you can still pay for everything. But then you could still get your free ones down here, but they're not going to be as good. And they're still doing that on the console ones. What's really funny to me, so there is also still the Creation Club in Skyrim. Or sorry, not Skyrim, in the PC versions of Skyrim. And you can still go into the Creation Club. And there's a mod on an amazing website called Nexus Mods. It's the most popular one that people use for modding. There's a mod on there that gets rid of the Creation Club option on the main menu. So it's literally just a slap in the face to Bethesda. It's one of my favorites. It's so funny.
Oh my god. That's fucking rude.
But overall, Skyrim is a game that's worth playing, especially if you want to see one of the landmarks for RPG gaming. It's one of the it's kind of like Lord of the Rings, in the way that a lot of things afterwards wanted to be Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And a lot of, and same thing with like Harry Potter, Star Wars, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of tropes that came out of those amazing movie franchises that stuck ever since. And same thing with Skyrim and the previous Elder Scrolls games. They have been trendsetters with their games. And lately, those trends have not been good. With Bethesda. Yeah. Before, they were great. They're making these amazing expansive worlds, and they were increasing the expectations of what an RPG open world should be. And they were raising that bar. But now there are others that do it better. And even some of the ones that we thought would do it better are not doing so hot. Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Which we will do an episode on Cyberpunk someday.
Absolutely.
I promise.
Okay. Sounds like a plan, man. I don't know. I feel good about this episode. Do you think you want to wrap it up here?
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we touched on most things. This might have not been nearly as rambunctious as the prior episode, but yeah, I think we did pretty good.
I mean, it's all good.
You can check me out. We are at a vid game podcast on Twitter. Go and check us out there. Like I said, we said at the beginning of the episode, we are now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so you can check us out there as well. We're going to be posting every Sunday. So every Sunday, expect to see a new episode from us, each one about a different game. And Jordan, you want to plug?
Dude, okay, absolutely. I want to plug. So I am Captain Redbeard 96 on Facebook Gaming. I honestly, dude, I've gotten away from streaming. I don't even know why I'm still plugging it, but who cares, man? But yeah, make sure you check us out on YouTube, Spotify. I mean, whatever it is. Dude, I will say though, I am so excited about our next episode. Let me fucking tell you, bro.
No, don't tell them. So here's the thing. Here's the thing, all you guys. If you want to know what we're going to come out with next week, on Wednesdays, I will post a sneak peek on Twitter. So
I am so excited, dude. Yeah. I think it is. I mean, one of the games in their series, I think, is the best first-person shooter of all time. All time. Better than Rainbow Six Siege, better than anything Call of Duty has put out. I'm so excited for this, guys. Come back next week. Check us out on Twitter so you can see what it is.
Yeah, it's Animal Crossing. Could you imagine if Animal Crossing turned into a first-person shooter? Like you're fishing, you're owning your house in your town.
It's like the deer hunting games that you can play in an arcade.
Yeah. And then eventually you find a weird hunter that gives you a gun. And you can just first-person shooter. Oh, that'd be amazing.
Oh my god. All right. Let's wrap it up there.
All right. Sounds good. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Sharing is a huge thing when we are a new channel like this. But
rate us on Apple Podcasts too. That's really helpful. If you can give us a good rating, we'll definitely shout you out.
Yeah. Oh, one last thing. I'm sorry, we've done like 3 of the one last things. We're going to do a new thing where if you put in the comments a suggestion about what you would like us to talk about, even if it's not a full game. First of all, definitely recommend games to us. But if it's not a full game, not a big deal. If you want us to compare 2 things or you want us to share your idea, put it in the comments on YouTube for those of you listening on YouTube, and we will we'll shout you out and talk about it in the last 20 or so minutes of the podcast.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this, man. This has been a ton of fun. This is a really good passion project for both of us. I know, Justin, you've been thriving doing this.
Yes, this has been my busy work, and it's great.
All right. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for listening. Come back next week. Peace out.
Bye, everyone.